Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you coming on by for another Long Song Saturday. And today we got a good one, I hope. We have, I don't know, we have the Enid with their album In the Region of the Summer Stars. This is their debut album released in 1976. Many of you had suggested this particular album, and for quite a while. Among those, you got Monkey Mark, Bob Wheeler, the Phil Wood, Mikao Osana or Mike Osana, MDR, Robert Carr, Adrian Jimenez, and I believe Rand Kelly as well. You suggested the album, so thank you so much for the suggestion. I've never heard of the band besides what you guys have mentioned of them, but I've heard decent, good things about them. So that's what we're going to do today for this Long Song Saturday. Now, really quick, I just want to say that I always pull up the Wikipedia article and the lyrics for the album, so I have those two things side by side to follow. So I got the Wikipedia article up here, and I was pulling up the lyrics. Well, apparently it's an instrumental album, okay? So I only found that out because, one, I couldn't find a lyric sheet for it. And so I pulled it up on Wikipedia, and I don't usually read the Wikipedia page for the album because I like to kind of learn about it as we listen to it. I gotta tell you, I did read this one. There was a lot going against the band in their history. So first of all, there's a lot that happened to this band. Originally, this was a largely vocal album, but recording plans had to be reviewed when Peter Roberts, the band's singer, killed himself on New Year's Day in 1975. It was decided by the remaining band members that Roberts was irreplaceable, and subsequently the band had to re-record and reconstruct the music to be instrumental. Like, that is a huge blow. This is their debut album. That is such a huge blow to the band. And then it was recorded in late 74, early 75, and EMI, the band, the label, deleted the album from their catalog soon after and lost the multi-track tapes for side 2. So then the band had to re-record side 2 of the album and reconstruct it again. I mean, like, there was just a lot against the band in their early days. And I mean, that would be so crushingly detrimental and, like, to the morale of the band. I just think that's... I couldn't stop reading. Once I saw, like, some of the info, I was like, man, they had all the cards stacked against them in their not favor, their disfavor. So I'm curious to hear what they sound like. What I think I have, I read through again because I had to figure this out. I'm pretty sure I'm listening to the original recording here, because I did find the re-recording that they did, because they did do another re-recording like in the 80s, and I'm not listening to that, I don't think. I always try to listen to the original version. I want to hear how it originally sounded, and I'm pretty sure I have that. But there's always a chance I could be wrong. So I'm just putting that big disclaimer out there. I didn't want to talk too much in the very beginning of the video, but I did want to throw that out there. So now that we got all of that out the way, let's go ahead and get ready to dive into the album. Of course, please press the like button. Subscribe if it's your first time here. If it's your first time here, you're watching me and you're like, who's this guy in the colorful shirt that his wife bought for him on Christmas that he loves and he was very surprised about, and he's listening to the Enid? No one listens to the Enid. Listen, on this channel, sometimes we take lesser known bands or bands that haven't quite had their day in the light, and we listen to them here because we do everything here. That's what we're here for, to listen to good music, and good music comes from every corner of the earth, every corner of the land, sea, air, and sky. So air and sky is the same thing. That's the intro. My name's Justin. Let's go ahead and get it started. We're going to listen to the first track here, which is going to be The Fool / The Falling Tower. Here we go, guys. Let's go. That little pitch down turning. wallop in there. Trying to catch that rhythm. Never mind. There's a lot happening. I cannot catch that time signature. Ten eight. Great piece. There is just so much going on and it keeps changing. That's a nice big moment. There's so much happening. Ooh. opening track has so much going on, and there's so many changes in there. I'm genuinely a little flabbergasted, and I don't even think I've ever used that word in the however many years I've started and done this channel. I've never considered myself flabbergasted, but here I am. There's just so many changes. It was hard for me to genuinely keep up. It seemed that the time signature was maybe in 10/8, but they're playing with the hits in there, so it makes it even more confusing and complicated. The guitar is squirming around throughout this track like a worm in the dirt. The keyboards are fun and jittery and delightful to listen to. The drumming is trying to keep up with all of it, and the bass is just putting it down. But there's like a lot going on. Now, something I forgot to mention in the beginning is that when I was looking at the track listing, it's obviously based off of tarot cards, right? And of course, I'm going to reference Voyage of the Acolyte by Steve Hackett. Oh, I don't have to, because another fun fact for the band, the original name of the album was The Voyage of the Acolyte. However, Steve Hackett, his album came out, and so they changed it. So that's even just, they just want to get the name down, and they couldn't even do that. They had to switch names on there. So, all right, so if I'm taking the music, and when there are no lyrics, you have to take what's given musically and interpret that through the title, which is in a sense the only words from the band given to us. So I don't know anything about tarot cards and their meanings, but when I see the Fool, and I did pull up a tarot card like meaning so we can kind of get a little bit of it, but when I see the Fool, I kind of get an idea of like a dancing clown, medieval, and he's like da 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 da, right? Entertaining guests, hopefully to their delight, because if not, then it's off with his head. And so the beginning, and I guess much of the song, but let's just take the first half with its back and forth, extremely dynamic nature. It gives me that idea of like, I guess a fool dancing around, cutting a jig, like, you know, doing his thing, just trying to entertain before, like I said, if the king don't smile, then you going down for a while. So that's what I get out of the first part. And then the Falling Tower, the music definitely does take a little bit more of an epic turn. There's a moment here in there where we get some wordless vocals that kind of echo forth and come out from the background in this kind of haunting manner. And just because of what I've read on the history of this album, at least, maybe, I don't know, but maybe that moment there with those wordless vocals kind of seeing this, I don't know, not necessarily a Gregorian chant, but this kind of spiritual chanting going on. Maybe in a way this is their ode to their former lead singer. Maybe. Or maybe I'm digging in too deep and I'm looking too far in, but I think that is at least a nice idea if that's what it meant. And then, like I said, with the tower, like there is a much more clear epicness after those vocals come in when the music becomes a little bit more grand for a few moments. And yes, it still retains that back and forth momentum, but it does kind of put it down in a more grounded way just to kind of bring it around. So there's different, I'm learning about tarot right now. So there's different positions with the cards. So if the Fool, upright, it's innocence, new beginnings, and free spirit. And then reverse, it's reckless, taken advantage of, and inconsiderate. Which I guess you do get a little bit of reckless carelessness in the dynamics of the music in the beginning. And then with the Tower, upright, it is sudden upheaval, broken pride, and disaster. Reversed, it's disaster avoided, delayed disaster, or fear of suffering. Maybe we get, I mean, I guess in a way we do get like a musical upheaval from that vocal moment forward in the song. So maybe I'm reaching again. But like, you know, like the band is capturing the title, the meaning musically. They have to interpret it themselves, and then us as the listener, we have to interpret. So you're getting every interpretation, and technically everyone's is correct. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be Death the Reaper. Here we go. I love that darker turn. that. Got a dark Renaissance-y kind of feel. I like that melody too. Very classical in its approach right there. And the bells, the church bells ringing. That guitar screamed and scared me a little bit. Wasn't even expecting it. Wasn't even expecting it. Okay, okay, we're in. We're in. Yes. I was already really enjoying the track before we even got to the ending. I didn't need it. I didn't need it. And yet the Enid, they gave it to me. This was a beautiful, medieval, classically influenced track. It felt like there should be like lute in there or something. It just that main melody that it kept coming back to, it was beautiful. I really like how enchanting that was, and it gave it a strong medieval flavor. The organ, the synth work in the back, it created this kind of dirgy funeral movement kind of movement. And I like how they played upon those dynamics. There was something very mysterious about it, something near gothic-y about it, and it felt like death. But even still, even after, frightening moments of guitar that would come out, there was still, in a sense, moments of peace. And perhaps this was like going through the stages of grief, and afterwards there's maybe a peace to be found, or maybe death, there is a peace to be found. I think the band did a great job of capturing that. I haven't mentioned any names yet, but you have two guitarists, Stephen Stewart and Francis Licorice, and the guitarists really sounded great in here between, like I said, the searing electric and the more laid-back medieval toned. And then on the keyboards you have Robert John Godfrey and Glenn Tollett. Like I said, they set a really nice stage and ambience for this particular title to spring to life. And spring to life it does, because I genuinely wasn't expecting any like drums or a big moment or anything like that, because I really didn't feel like the track needed it, and I didn't feel like it was coming. But they gave it to me, and I am delightfully surprised. I'm so happy that it was there, it was just a great climax to the song, and it didn't even go on very long. I think that that climax goes around for maybe like 20 seconds, 25 seconds, I want to say. Like, it was quick, it was in and out. It's a great melodic gut punch to you, and then it's out of there. Why did I pick up this pen? That's a really, really great track. And then perhaps, obviously, with the death card, I figured I might as well like look at the tarot cards every time after. It may help us with our meanings. I don't see a card for the Reapers, so maybe that is just death. Upright, end of cycle, beginnings, change and metamorphosis, and reversed, fear of change, holding on, stagnation, and decay. And I mean, you do get an ending here, as encompassed by that beginning and that kind of funeral procession, and then a whole new beginning, a whole new change there. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here, which is going to be The Lovers. I'm expecting a little bit of romance in the air, but let's see. Is that Mellotron in the back? Or just strings? What is that sound that keeps coming in? It's kind of crispy. I have to hand it to the band. They have done an incredible job of bringing these titles, these cards to life. This was undisputably and unrelentingly romantic. It was tender. It was loving and caring. The piano playing. Who did I say that was by again? Robert John Godfrey. Absolutely incredible. Just in the approach to everything, it felt warm. It felt like being hugged or kissed by someone you love. It felt great. It felt really wonderful. Brilliant piano playing. And then I really enjoy how the rest of the instruments came in around that. So you had what I believe is going to be Mellotron at one point, just beginning to kind of creep on the side and add this little layer of right? That's what it is. It's a layer of And then as it built upon that, you had, I wouldn't say some brass that came in. I would assume trumpet by Dave Hancock. You heard a few light, careless whispers, careless blowings of the trumpet coming in. And then you even had, I want to say 2 or 3 times, it wasn't much, but just big drum moments and just a single hit, whether that was on timpani, which it sounded like, or whatever, but just to enunciate certain fireworks in the air. And then you had some synth in the back as well, which eventually it swelled and came in like a beautiful dance. But is that what that kind of crispy, staticky noise was that I kept on mentioning? Like every time it happened, I was like, "What is that?" Because it kind of sounded like it kind of sounded like staticky when it would come in. I was like, I want to say that that's like a keyboard or something, like a synth, but it just sounds weird. And I'm not sure if that was on purpose or maybe that was like part of the issue with the recording process. I don't know, because I couldn't tell what it was, and I couldn't tell if it, I mean, obviously it's on purpose, but I just didn't know what that was. But this is a lovely track that very gently builds up into its finale, and then it gently falls back down. This was a really lovely track, no pun intended. For the tarot card lovers, I guess obviously, partnerships, duality, and union, and reversed is loss of balance, one-sidedness, and disharmony. Well, this was definitely a partnership made from love. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to end the first side of the album, and that is going to be The Devil, El Diablo. Let's go. This should be fun. Of course. Oh, that organ swell. Of course the devil be stomping. Some trickery on the piano. I like how the guitar acted like the devil's voice. It's fun. Some marimba, maybe? Sneaky. love how the organ comes in, and to me it sounds like him, like the devil, right? Why that melody? I mean, say what you will, but the devil knows how to have a good time. The devil's having some fun here. This was such a fun track to listen to. It is, at this exact moment, the Enid's heaviest song, right? It is heavy in their own way, but it still has all the dillies, it still has all the dallies and everything else that I'm expecting from the band at this point. All these playful progressions and dynamics. Okay. The whole track is great, but that little moment where I want to say it's maybe from trumpet or something, I don't know, where you get the melody of na 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 na, right? Like that's the devil mocking you, but it's so fun and positive. I just think that was absolutely fun. To me, this is the band having so much fun at this point. This is their release. This is like, all right, this is going to be our jam. This is going to be, we did the serious piano thing. We did the epic overture in the beginning. Let's just kind of jam out a little bit. And they sound awesome. I love the organ ripping through, as well as chopping it up in the verse. But then that moment where the organ kind of starts off and is very low in this growly way. And to me, that's kind of representative of like the devil's voice, like this kind of process, like not like that. That was horrible, but like that kind of sound, like coming from beneath. I think that sounded absolutely wonderful. And then there's several moments in there that it's kind of emulated again and coming back. And then about halfway through, we get into that break where for a moment it changes into something very beautiful, like the piano shines through again, it becomes very melodic, but there's still a little bit of a playfulness to it. To me, I guess you could say, in how I'm interpreting that, is like the devil's deception, right? Like, there's some fun, it's light, let's just all dance. And then it turns immediately back on its head and it goes back to, haha, it was just a dream, it was just a nightmare, you're stuck in here with me. Like, I think that the way that they did that was so well composed, and like I said, they captured this certain hellish playground, I would say. Those are the two words that I would use to sum up this track. It's a hellish playground. They did a really awesome job capturing that. And then it even got kind of blues-y, like just a little bit, shades of blue at the very end. Some would say a kind of blue at the very end, before it just descended on those chords for that final hit and that final bit of laughter. Let's go ahead and flip over the album, flip over the record, and go ahead and move on to side 2. And I hope that you guys enjoyed side 1. Hope you're having a great time so far. Once again, if it's your first time here and you've gotten to this point, I appreciate everyone that's gotten to this point, but I really appreciate it if it's your first time, you're here still watching, still listening. That means, you're enjoying the music, and hopefully in some capacity you're also enjoying myself and the reaction itself. So introduce yourself if it is your first time here. Like, just say hello. I almost said hi-lo, but it's not what I'm asking. Just say hi back there. All right, let's move on to the next side. Everyone else can say hi too. You're not disinvited. Let's go ahead and move on to the next track, which is going to be The Sun. Oh, I forgot to talk about the devil. the tarot card. Upright is addiction, materialism, and playfulness. You definitely get playfulness. And reversed is freedom, release, and restoring control. Which I guess you could argue the restoring control is like bringing it back down to that heavy part. Like, haha, I'll let you have your little fun. Get back here. All right, let's move on to the sun. Here we go. Da, 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 da. This is definitely a dawn. Almost John Hassel-esque. This is a beautiful dawn. I love that. Slide. Nice way of bringing that snare in, along with everything else. The synth took over that guitar melody line. Snappy drumming too. absolutely gorgeous. This is a beautiful way to start off the second side of the album. It's like awakening from a devilish night and awakening into a beautiful radiant dawn. Got to talk about Mr. Dave Hancock, which his trumpet playing is so, to me, reminiscent of someone like John Hassel, where it has that ambience, that echo and reverb. There's a lot of space allowed for him to start off the track here, and I really like the space that he's allowed because I mean, to me, he is the herald of dawn, the harbinger of light. Like he is that. What is it? The god Ra. Like remember he did his chariot like around. That's the sun. Like Mr. Hancock was that chariot. He was the one driving the sun and bringing it forth. And I think that he did a sensational job bringing everything in. And then when the rest of the band came in, it was still absolutely delightful. You still have a little bit of that, to me, medievalish flair to the playing in it. And I like how the synth eventually overtook the guitar and eventually everything came in. I also like the drum pattern that you have in here from Dave Story, who we haven't really talked about. But I like his drum pattern in here because it's still straightforward. It's relatively simple. But I like how he's not afraid to at least add an extra few beats and kicks into the music. It's just not like overly straightforward to the point that it's like boring. Like he puts a little extra in there, not a lot, but he does put a little, Old Bay seasoning in there just in the mix. I like the way that he brings a little bit of orchestral elements into it in the end, and I like those big grand moments that he radiates here in the music as well. I think that he did a great job of doing that, and once again, the dynamic between the guitars and those synths are really like that beautiful layer of light that's making this song what it is and giving it the feelings that it is. Because as I'm listening to the, I guess, verse, but like the not the intro, but right after that, it really does feel like walking down the beach, especially with that slide guitar, the way that it's playing. It's so like at the beach, summery, hot, sun. I think they really greatly capture that feeling, and they keep on bringing these different elements in to capture those feelings and make these titles and these cards come alive. The sun upright is joy, success, celebration, and positivity. Reversed, negativity, depression, and sadness. And this definitely feels like, once again, it radiates. It is lit up with positivity. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be, hold on, I gotta pull it back up right here. The longest track on the album, which is going to be The Last Judgment. Here we go, guys. This feels like you're being led to your execution. This is definitely being led to the block. About to pay for your crimes. Bass came in. Is that flute? This is building up like a bolero, like ELP. I just thought about that because of the snare pattern. I like how in this structure they're creating such crescendos and falls. Even that synth line kind of sounds like Emerson-esque. Heavy. I like how those fills are added in to kind of break up the pattern, but still retain it. Breaking out of it. Crushing. Use those vocals again too. Oh, this sounds like old Genesis. Those horns, keys. Okay, it's definitely like transitioning into the final track, which is the title track. We'll catch the transition on the way back. We'll back it up and catch that again because you heard that little ping, that ping, that Pink Floyd echoes-ish ping. Yeah, you heard that going into the next track. Okay, the Last Judgment, like I said, is the last track, not the last track, the longest track on the album. And I think it's really cool how in the beginning, it took me a second to figure it out, but the first half is basically a bolero. It, like you got that ba ba da 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 ba da 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 ba da 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 da, like that sound, and it carries forth. And by the time I realized, like, oh, that's what they're doing, I thought it was going to continue throughout the whole track, kind of like ELP with Abaddon's bolero, but it doesn't, which is to me kind of unexpected. It's kind of cool actually that they do it for half the track and then they change into something completely different, but just as rewarding. During that bolero part, I thought it was really great how the band handled all the sounds, music, and instrumentation around it. Because while that drum pattern does not change, that's the purpose. It is that same rhythm over and over and over. It's everything that you flesh out around it that's going to make it what it is and change the direction of it without literally changing the rhythmic direction of it. So I love how the keyboards, the synths, the guitars interact with each other. You had some, just to bring in ELP again, to me you had some Emerson-esque keyboard sounds, those synthy, so they kind of sound like horns, and I'm not doing it correctly, but that like, oh, that kind of sound, that's very Emerson to me. And then you even had some flutes, which is going to be courtesy of Neil Kavanagh in there. I didn't hear like a lot of it, but it was definitely in there, kind of in the mix with those hits and some of those melody lines, which I thought was also really nice. Like, there's obviously at this point we've kind of learned through the album, but there's a strong orchestral feel to this album, a strong symphonic feel, I should probably say. And I think it's in a track like this where it really shows the band strutting their stuff and spreading those symphonic wings, I guess. And they did a fantastic job there. And then the music changes, like I said, on the last half. And going along with the bolero sound, the first half sounded like we were walking towards an executioner's block. The second sound, or the second side of it, sounded like release to me. It sounded more like freedom, I guess, is the word I was thinking. Like, it sounds like this last judgment because you're walking up. You don't know which way the judgment's going to go. It could go this way or it could go this way. And you walk up to that block, you don't know which way it's going, which way the jury's going, and then it goes this way, and you're like, thank you. And that's the feeling that I get from the end of here as it moves into those more celebratory moments, I would say. But really, really fantastic musicianship, and I think that they did a phenomenal job of creating this piece and composing it all, taking, of course, like the bolero first half. The drums, I really like how eventually the drums changed. They kept their rhythm from the bolero, but started kind of adding this drum fill on the toms, and I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. And then that was kind of the foreshadowing of where the track would go after. That was really, really nice. All right, let's move on into the final track, which is going to be the title track, In the Region of the Summer Stars, which I wonder, if the band didn't have to change the name of the album, would this song have been Voyage of the Acolyte? I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and catch the last few seconds of Last Judgment, and then we'll let it lead directly into the final track. And then the horns here even sounds like The Sun that we just listened to. Like the beginning of that a little bit, right? So maybe it's Last Judgment being released into the sun out of prison. And that slide again? Violin too? love that guitar sound though. Nice little echo. This almost kind of sounds in the same wavelength of the middle of Firth of Fifth, the break. I love that. Dark cloud looming. That's how you bring an ending in. I gotta tell you, this band wrapped up this album in a perfect summary. This was a huge payoff. I love the guitar work from the two guitarists there, from Stewart and from Licorice. They delivered. This felt like, I mean, like I said, certain moments in there felt like shades of the middle section of Firth of Fifth, but I would say that a lot of this song had a strong early Genesis kind of feel with the way that they crafted the solos, the melodies, the instrumentation, the drive, the progression of it all. I mean, they did a phenomenal job here. I would put this as my top track on the album as of this moment. We'll talk about the others when we talk about the album and summarize and finish the video here. But this was just a great conclusion to everything. The solos were absolutely gorgeous. I love the return of those, the slide guitar or the laps, which I'm pretty sure it's slide guitar, but that, like, it's just so gorgeous and it surrounds you. Just like in the sun, it's a surrounding, enveloping warmth of a feeling that sound is. I mean, we heard a lot in like Pink Floyd, and you get that here, and I think the way they bring that in is absolutely magnificent. Everyone is doing an amazing job. I want to say that there was some like violin or cello or some sort of string instrument also being dragged across in there, which I thought just added a little bit more of that kind of classical influence. Like, to me, this is a piece of music that goes further into that just strict prog rock territory, kind of leaving behind a lot of the classical influences we heard before, but it acts so well as that finale and that conclusion to everything that we heard. Obviously, there's still a classical touch, or a symphonic touch, I should say, in here, but I think that they really rocked out a little bit with this one. Kind of referencing in some ways previous tracks, like when the heavy guitar came in, I was like, "Oh, there's the devil again." Or when the slide guitar came in, I was like, "Oh, here, da 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 da, here comes the sun." Right? Like I think that here they kind of did. The beginning is an overture. The ending is a reprise. Thank you. I got you. Listen, we got it. So I think that in a way, maybe not literally, but they did something, at least metaphorically or spiritually, kind of, referencing those previous tracks in certain ways. But this was such a fun album to listen to. I'll tell you though, we'll talk about my favorite tracks on the album. I got to figure that out still besides the top one right here. But I will tell you, and I will admit, that the first track is actually my least favorite. It actually had me a little bit worried for where I was going with the rest of this album because it was so all over the place. It was so back and forth that it's kind of like a caricature of what I think prog rock sounds like to a lot of people. It sounded like a parody of that just because of how all over the place it was and there's so many changes. And maybe it's because it's my first time hearing it, so I don't know it, so I have to keep up with it. I'll find out on a second listen on my own. But I will say off the top of my head that is going to be my least favorite track on the album. The rest of the album, I think, is sensational. So with the title track being my favorite, I think... I truly think that the rest of the album is really strong and there's something in there for everybody. I mean, for example, the second track with Death has that mood and then the build-up and the explosion at the end. The Lovers is just romantically gorgeous. The Devil is delightfully fun. The Sun is refreshingly warm. And then the Last Judgment is organically built up into something that capitulates your soul. I don't know. So truthfully, like, I don't know, like, maybe Death would be my next favorite track after the title. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's all pretty good, to be honest. Anyways, that's the video. Now we're done. Thank you all for sticking around here, for watching the video, for just for being here, just for being here. You didn't have to be here, but you are. So I really appreciate you stopping by, and maybe you stop by all the time. Maybe you're always here. Really, thank you, because I couldn't do this without you, quite literally. So thank you guys so much for the recommendation. Thank you for listening to the music with me. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite track was. Was your favorite track also the title, or was it one of the others? There's many to choose from. Was it the first track? Tell me why, because I didn't like it as much as I was hoping. And like I said, that was like a wrong step in the wrong direction, and I'm so glad we changed. I'm so glad we turned different directions. But yeah, let me know those thoughts in the comments below. You can follow me in a few places that are here on the screen. You can also support the channel and what I do on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You don't have to. but you can. That's the video. That's it. I'm going to press the stop record button. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you as always for being here and enjoying the music and my elaborate discussions with you. And I will talk to you all tomorrow, guys. Bye.